All right, so we are live here at the Microsoft Malvern MTC studio, and we're going to have an after show after the Philly Azure meetup, which was here tonight. We had a great presentation on Azure Cosmos DB. It was called Cosmos DB from the Trenches, and we had Stephen Faulkner talking to us about his real life experiences using Cosmos DB in the Azure portal. So if you're interested in that presentation, it will be at the Philly Azure meetup group site, which on YouTube, their channel is youtube.com/Philly Azure. But I've got Rich here behind the camera, producing as always. And so we figured let's come down here and have a quick chat about all things the Philly Microsoft tech community and maybe even have some fun with a little bit codes. So how's it going tonight, Rich?
Going well.
Awesome.
Good to be here. Get to make the nice little trip down.
Yeah. Yep. So the first thing off is that if you were here for Code Camp, which was last 2 weekends ago, we streamed all day and we had a Friday workshop session. We are working on those videos and they will be showing up on the YouTube channel for Philly.net. So if you don't know those different channels, we've got, you go to youtube.com/Philly.net, which I put in really big letters here over on my display. This is where you want to go to. This is our very expensive graphics here. This youtube.com/Philly.net. And what's great is at the Philly.net channel, you can watch replays of our different code camps, our different meetups, our after show. We've got a lot of different playlists, and we were ready to, and we're live right now, and we're ready to announce that the first video from Philly.net Code Camp is up. Brian McKeever's tour of the .NET Core CLI. So this is up and ready to go on the channel, and this was a really fun one.
Yeah, that was a lot of great conversations. Started our day out here, and there was a lot of excitement around that. And I know Brian's super excited. He's already reached out to me and said he's super excited to go see how it all turned out.
Oh yeah, and he did a fantastic job really showing us. Just in some ways, I think this is how .NET Core really works. When you see the CLI, you get to really understand everything from creating your app to modifying your projects to building your apps to publishing your apps. It's Visual Studio is a fantastic tool. If you kind of want to know how things work under the covers, this is a great talk to look at. So I'm really happy about it. So more talks are coming. We're working on them a little bit at a time. There's some post-processing to do from Code Camp that we don't always have at the monthly meetings, but because it was a long day, we got things cut up. And if you did watch us online, you saw that we're working around stream issues that we had to get our recordings all, make nice recordings. But we are also ready. We've got our next hands-on lab is already scheduled. So if you are at our YouTube channel, you will see we already have 7 days and a little bit of change, the ASP.NET Core hands-on lab. That will be Bill Wolf is going to be presenting that lab, and a lot of it's based on his Friday workshop, which was covering ASP.NET Core. So, you know, we did see a little bit of that workshop while we were here, and also we streamed his 1 hour talk, which was him taking that workshop and saying, okay, let's do it in presentation form. And you're going to see a lot of ASP.NET Core samples of various types of projects, because in ASP.NET Core you might make a front end, maybe using MVC or Razor Pages. You might make a middle tier or a back-end tier using MVC. That's the product name, but I think a lot of us think of it as making web APIs, but that's been unified into one MVC-based product. And he even introduced people to Blazor, which there's a lot of excitement about. So we'll learn more about Blazor, I think, and a lot of the future of .NET Core and .NET in general, I'm expecting at Build. I mean, we'll see the first week of May. I don't exactly have the dates on me, but we're going to learn a lot about the future of .NET there, I'm sure.
Yeah, 6th, 7th, and 8th of May.
There we go.
Starting for those just around on the East Coast time, those core notes are usually live streamed.
Yeah.
And I believe that's still the case this year.
Yeah.
To do that. So 11:30 East Coast time is when you'll start seeing those and be able to hang out and have lunch and at least watch the beginning of those before lunch ends anyway.
Yeah, and then we are so lucky that shortly after Build, so Microsoft is going to have had their Build conference, and we're going to get to see the product teams for various things, not just .NET, not just development uh, methodologies, developer technologies, talking about the future. And then we, just a few weeks later, are going to have Jeff Fritz from the product team, from the .NET product team here. To the talk is called "What's Happening with Visual Studio 2019." But let me tell you, if I know Jeff, it will be very much an ask me anything about being a developer on the .NET platform, any language, any developer, any device, any platform. I don't know that I got the I don't think I got the slogan exactly right, but that's definitely the core mission of .NET there. So that's going to be great. I'm super happy that we're going to have Jeff a couple weeks after that right on this stream.
Yeah. And Jeff is no stranger to live streaming, that's for sure. I think he'll. I'm not sure if he's announced if he's doing anything while because he is going to build.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's announced anything out there.
So I'm not sure yet either. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he, if he finds the time to live stream and maybe get some unique voices on. He was just last week. I think they were just in Nashville. Gosh, I don't remember what. If you follow the C# Fritz stream, and kind of doing this off the top of my head, didn't think about it, but he had a stream where he brought in many of the speakers that were at the event, and these were new voices that were not. I mean, I've seen them in other places, but what I really liked about it is they were maybe some people we don't hear from enough of, and so it was great that he was saying, hey, let's introduce these folks to maybe a new community, and they're the kind of folks that I'd love to have on too. So that's definitely worth checking out. One of the things that we were going to talk about tonight is we've had a lot of interest right here on this stream and this is a common ask of people who watch development streams, is they're super excited about what's going on, and then they say, I'm kind of looking for some basics, some back to basics stuff. Like, how do you set things up? How do you get started? So we've been talking a lot about that. And I thought we'd have a quick conversation about, what should be the first thing you do when you say you're going to start a new project, in this case, a web project.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, from my take on it, I think regardless of what kind of project it is, the first thing you should be doing is having some kind of a location to start putting your code into.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, typically we've seen the presentations, right? File new project.
Yep.
Whatever. But it really should be, there's a file new project, but more file new projects, Azure DevOps, GitHub, whatever your source repository of choice winds up being, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of how I think about it, how I approach it. And I know one of the things we want to kind of walk through here, and we can certainly do that. Let me bring up my. Do you want to show that first? Oh,
no, go ahead.
So we do this. So this is my Azure DevOps instance.
Okay. Yeah.
So essentially my place where I put projects. There's a lot of demo projects that I work on. There's some internal projects that I work on. But essentially here, this is where I think of starting file new project.
Okay.
In Azure DevOps, for those people who haven't seen it, there's certainly an organization component to this. So down the left-hand side here are your organizations, or think of it as other groups that you might be working on projects with. So I'm part of the Technology Center here in Philadelphia. I have counterparts around the world, around the country, and we work on projects together. And this is a place for us to store those projects in one spot and then be able to do the work against those bases.
Yeah. And what's nice about Azure DevOps is it is a one-stop shop, right? You could do sprint boards there. You can store your code in Azure repos, and then do your builds, releases, and even test. Everything from there. And so I think that we'll use some of those features for what we're doing. And in fact, it might be nice to take a look at Azure repos in a future episode.
Yep.
But since I think it's fair to say that most of the people who just pick up this show and maybe they see the title and they say, oh, starting your new project, yeah, that's interesting. Well, a lot of us are going to use GitHub.
Yeah.
I just think, it's become the world's premier open source repository. But I think what we'll find out when we start integrating is that you could use anything you want,
right?
Which is great.
There's a tremendous amount of flexibility regardless of which one of these. And we think about just a couple that, we talked about from Azure DevOps or from GitHub.
Yep.
Both are going to give you that ability to do both public and private repositories.
Right. Yep. That's the great thing now. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And both of them essentially are free for you to sign up for, regardless of which path you go. So if you just go out to GitHub and do an account through there, you can create your own account, or you can do in the Azure DevOps environment, you can bring your Microsoft account, a Hotmail out, what have you, and use that as a place to start bringing your creating your repository.
Yeah.
And part around that it with them being public and private, I think GitHub is always being that public repo, but it had the ability to do private.
Yep.
If you
used to have to pay for it.
Yeah. Right? And now you have the ability to do a private repo, have up to 3 people included in that repo to do work on with you, but still keep that repository private.
Right. Yeah.
And in DevOps, it's the other way around.
Yep.
It's private kind of by default, and then you can make it public.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you get some added benefits around your ability to build, get so many hours of build time essentially for building up your project.
Yeah. If you declare your project public and open source, you get some free concurrent pipelines and things like that, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, they're looking at perhaps there are some benefits though if you have a Visual Studio subscription.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So if that ability to bring other people into your project in Azure DevOps, you can bring up to 5 people in there for free,
right?
Without having to. But if one of those users, or you can bring in n number of users who have an MSDN license with them. So having that license kind of gives you that ability to just jump into any project.
Yeah. So I think we'll get to Azure DevOps, and because we want to show people how to use that, but probably the easiest place to start is let's start with GitHub.
Okay.
And so I've brought up on my machine, this is my GitHub account. All right. And you can just find me on GitHub at just github.com/spaceshot. Now, when you start to use a lot of GitHub, you get into this funk where you have a lot of those starter projects that you like. Look, I've got this one, new repo.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what that's about? And I've forked a lot of different projects. So there's a lot going on here.
Yep.
But what if you've never used GitHub before? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to open a private window because that'll simulate like, hey, I'm showing up at GitHub and I've never used it before, and you get a different experience. It says, hey, welcome, and you can build things better together. And what I love about what the folks at GitHub are doing here with this experience is look how easy it is to sign up. On the front page, they're saying, just give us a username, give us your email, give us a password, and you're done.
Yeah.
And that's great. And in fact, after this, you get a short survey that you can even skip. And the survey is just asking you things like, who the heck are you? And what do you think you want to do? What, and there's a link at the bottom that just says, forget it, just get me going. And you go to your email and you confirm, done. That's it. You are ready. And then the next time you come back, your GitHub experience will look more like this, which is a great start. So where should we start? We could start here and make a project, or we could go over to Visual Studio and make a project.
Visual Studio, you mean the application, right?
Yes, so, the Visual Studio application. What do you think?
My preference is to start in GitHub.
Okay.
This way we get, and this part of the reason for doing this is when you start your base project there, you're going to get your README. You can do your git ignore.
Okay.
So you can determine, I know this is going to be a Visual Studio project, so I can make sure that the right git ignore gets thrown in there. And the git ignore basically does not do the check-in for certain project file types. Right.
Which is super important for Visual Studio devs.
Yeah.
And important for most any platforms. But I think for a long time we've struggled with, do I check in that .suo file?
Right.
The answer is no. Spoiler alert there. But let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So we're going to start in GitHub. This is where we're going to start everything. Remember, we're going to make a website tonight. We're not going to do any functionality because first we're showing what's the first thing you should do. And this is a conversation. Rich and I we purposely are talking this through because we want you to see the process of figuring out what should we do first. So here I am at GitHub, and I'm going to click new. and I'm going to say repository name. Um, what we'll do is I don't know if this is the project we're going to build, and this could even lead to another topic later.
Right.
Is maybe we'll talk about like, oh, I want to change this. All right, but what if we want to build something for Philly.net that schedules our streams?
Okay.
So just for the heck of it, I'm going to call it PDN Scheduler. If that's not what we end up building, that's fine. So first of all, it makes sure that your repository is unique within your own account. And the reason I say that is it's okay for someone else in their account to make a repository called PDN Scheduler. That's okay. That I contrast that with maybe other services where it's got to be unique globally. Mm-hmm. So it's just saying, yep, that's fine. And also you followed all of our rules. I don't exactly know what they are. It's possible that I can't put in. No, I guess it would have let me put in asterisks. There's probably some rules there. So description, this is optional. We'll say an app to help with scheduling streams. And we'll leave it public.
Sure.
Or should we switch this? Public's okay?
Public's good.
Now your point, initialize with a README. If I don't check this and I leave git ignore and license to none, I'm going to get an empty Git repository with no files, no commits, anything. But which is okay, like that works.
Yep.
But if I check this, I'm now going to get a Git repo with an initial commit that will have just a simple README markdown file in it.
Right.
Now, two other things that are useful. You mentioned the git ignore. When I click on the git ignore combo box here, or the drop down, I have a lot of choices. And generally speaking, a .NET developer, and it's even if you're not a Visual Studio developer, or perhaps you're a Microsoft developer, because there are, I know among the many things that are in this git ignore, there's also SQL Server stuff in there. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for a git ignore called Visual Studio. Okay, now, where is that coming from? Well, we're going to go to our friends here in the search engine, because I've always remembered that if I want the Visual Studio git ignore, I can kind of Google for this, and it always comes up. There is a repository, there is an organization in GitHub called git ignore, and so the git ignore organization, they are keeping track of, they have all these different files, and it's community driven.
Oh, cool.
If we were Python developers and we said, Python developers who use this really hot new library should ignore a certain file, we can add a pull request. We can send a pull request and say this needs to be done. If you look through the contributions for this Visual Studio git ignore, you will see them from Microsoft Teams. Like, for example, I remember a while ago seeing the SQL reporting services team saying new file extensions that should be ignored for reporting services. So there's a lot here. There's a lot. But what it will prevent from happening is it will prevent you from committing it'll prevent you from committing your binaries, your assemblies that you create as you're compiling on your own machine. And even as you scroll down it, you're going to see, hey, if you're a user of StyleCop, let's not commit the StyleCop report. And if you're a user of these different test frameworks or ReSharper, I mean, there's a lot going on here. nCrunch, all of these different projects have committed and said Visual Studio users might be interested in this. That's what you get. That's what you get when you say you want git ignore Visual Studio. A license. License is somewhat optional, but I think a lot of people usually jump in here and say, yeah, this is an open source project, so we'll use like the MIT license. We could leave it at none. It doesn't matter too much. But let's go ahead and create the repository. Enough of the suspense. What did we get? We had a repository, 3 files, just as predicted, with a README, a license, and the git ignore. The README is being rendered for us right here, and they automatically put in the description and the title. And we've got our initial commit just sitting here, and I committed it even, so that was fantastic. So great, we have a repository. We don't have any code though.
No, but we've got a good foundation to start from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a place now to put it. People can already start. You could immediately start cloning this. You could fork it over to your own account, which is a GitHub, and other repositories now use this too. But a concept of saying, I want a clone of that repository over in my account that I'm the owner of, that I manage.
Right.
And it's a way for you to work in isolation, and then you can submit changes back to me. It's a fantastic thing for open source projects, because open source projects can't go around granting permissions to everybody. They'd go crazy. They can't do it. So instead, this model of you fork, you work, and then you send me pull requests lets me keep people kind of at arm's length, right? You can't destroy our work if you're a malicious person, but welcome the good from the people who want to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have this repo. I suppose what I could do now is I could go ahead and clone it down to my machine, so I have a place to build the new project.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a lot of ways to do this. If you click on the clone or download button, and which is so I've scrolled down a little bit. It's the green button on the right that's begging you to click. You can open it in GitHub Desktop if you have that installed. You can open it in Visual Studio if you have that installed. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to click on this clipboard so that it copies. It's supposed to have copied this URL here, this .git URL. And then, so I'm going to be a little old school about this. I'm going to go out to command line.
Yes.
Because I like to have projects in a source folder. You can see here they are, all these projects. And I'm going to say git clone and bring in that URL. And what's happening? It didn't take very long. It created a folder PDN scheduler, and it went ahead and cloned into that folder. So I'll CD into it, and let's take a look at what's in there. All from command line now.
Yep.
There's those 3 files. There they are. And if I say start, this is one of my favorite tricks. Start dot open file explorer right here. I like that. That's one of my favorite things to do. So that's just a standard Git repository. If you're familiar with Git, you're seeing the hidden Git folder. This is ready to go. I can look at Git log and say, yep, sure enough, there's that initial commit. There it is. So it's ready. I think what I'm going to do is, while we're off doing other things, I'm going to go ahead and let this get started, so that if we do want to look at this Git repository in a visual manner, we'll have Git Kraken loading up. But we'll just let that go. Okay. So we've got a folder here. This would be a good place to put a new project, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of, so we don't lose the thread too far.
Yep.
Let me get back to my YouTube window. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have on Twitch, and I'm gonna butcher the names as well. Unicus.
Okay.
Also mentioning something called the gitignore.io tool.
Yeah. Okay. So I've actually just brought up that page.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you very much for pointing this out. This is new to me, and this is what I love about this. I love seeing, now we're going to get the feedback from the community. Create a useful gitignore file for your project. Fantastic. What if I type C# in here? Okay. Let's see. Can I do programming languages? Let me try C#. I'm just going to go ahead and say create. Let's see what happens. I'm just curious. Is it thinking? All right, let's try that. Let's do Visual Studio. Well, the Visual Studio one is famous. It's world famous. So let's say create, and sure enough, it has created a Visual Studio one that looks familiar. I'm not going to pretend that I know where all of this comes from, but that is a great tip. I am not going to forget this now.
Yeah.
Gitignore.io. Let's do Python and just going to hit create there. There we go. Yeah. Hit create, and there we go. Great. Thanks. That's good. We'll remember that. Thank you very much for that. And don't forget, Unicus, that you can join us up on Discord. So when we're offline, we can talk about things. Discord is a chat community. So I've got the link there, discord.me/philly.net, that's coming up right now. And this is our super awesome graphics board for showing URLs. It's just Visual Studio Code zoomed in really far. And so here it is. It'll take you here where you could join our Discord. And we are going to talk a little bit more about this later. But thanks for joining us tonight. And I love that tip. That is so awesome. So yeah, you can choose more than one. And I was just gonna see. Let's try that out here. Let's try out what that looks like. If I go to gitignore.io, this is probably the real power, right? I want Python, and for whatever reason, I want. Let me go ahead and take that. And I need. Well, let's just add Visual Studio. I think what he's saying here is it puts them together, right? Some Python stuff. And then keep going. There's the Visual Studio stuff. That's cool. Very cool.
That is pretty powerful.
Yep. That is a great find. Thank you. Thanks for that one. All right. So we still need to create our project.
Yeah.
We could use Visual Studio Code, and maybe uh, in a future edition of this we will. But let's use Visual Studio, and I'm going to use Visual Studio 2019. This happens to be enterprise, but it doesn't have to be. You could do everything I'm doing right now in community.
Yep.
So I'm going to open it again from scratch. When you open Visual Studio, you get if you're a Visual Studio vet, you get a new experience here where you can immediately open a project or clone some code. Like I could have cloned the code right here in Visual Studio. I didn't have to go clone it separately. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's open let's open a local folder. And what I'm going to do is go find that folder. I just personally like to keep everything in a C source. That's just me. It doesn't have to be there. Be wherever you'd like. And I called it PDN Scheduler. Okay. So I don't have much here. This is not a solution. This is just a folder. But we could create a new project, right?
Yeah.
So I can say new project. I might not have even had to open this folder. And we are going to do ASP.NET Core.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So it looks like I've chosen it recently. This is the new create project experience. It can be kind of an overwhelming list. So what they allow you to do is say, well, what if I want to filter it to just web projects? And what if I want to filter it to, this doesn't help us as much. What if I want to filter it to just C#? And it's the one that I want is coming up. But what if, let me see this WebDriver test. That one's at the bottom. So I finally say, well, WebDriver, and now it lets you drill in.
Yeah.
The one we want is at the top. So I highlight it, say next. What do we have here? We're going to create an app called PDN Scheduler. And oh gosh, I don't want it in this crazy target location. I want it here. In fact, let's go ahead and drill into this PDN Scheduler. And now here's the next question. Should I go ahead and say, let's put it in source, SRC. That's pretty common online to have a top level folder called source, and then and have your source in there, so that way you might have docs or tests in other top level folders. We're going to create a new solution. There it is. And let's see what happens. Let's see if I'm happy with when I create that. Now we're creating a new ASP.NET Core web application. We'll go ahead, we'll use 2.2. And we're going to say that we want Razor pages. That's fine. We'll go ahead and leave configure for HTTPS checked. And we'll create. And here it goes. So now we're in Visual Studio now. What's happening is files are being created on my local hard drive. This has nothing to do with the cloud yet, nothing to do with GitHub or source control yet. So here it is. I've got my brand new project. And just to make sure it all runs, I'm going to go ahead and click IIS Express. I'm wondering if I'm going to get the warning about the certificate, but I may have already bypassed that on this machine.
Okay.
So in some future one of these, I'll want to just reset that.
Yeah.
So people can see that, oh, hold on. This is it. This is great. The project is configured to use SSL, which you should be doing now. Do this locally if you can. Don't work in the HTTP world without SSL/TLS, and then at the last second try to sprinkle that on. So what happens is ASP.NET, they've created a self-signed certificate that's only going to work on your machine, and you have to trust that certificate or nothing's going to work. When you click yes, they are actually now installing that certificate, and this is a Windows dialog. This is not coming from Visual Studio. It's not coming from .NET. Windows is jumping in and saying, hold on, do you trust what's happening here? Well, I do, because I just got the warning from .NET that this is, so we'll go ahead and say yes. It installs the certificate. We might be able to dive into that sometime. Firefox, on the other hand, now here's where things get interesting. I'm a Firefox user. Firefox does not use the Windows Store for certificates. Edge does, and Chrome does. It has its own store. So I could install this certificate into the Firefox store. And because I'm a heavy Firefox user, that's what came up. So you're sitting here going, well, wait, Chris, you did all that and it didn't work. Okay, well, let me go ahead and take that localhost 44331 and let's go open Edge, just to pick a different. I'll even make it an in private window, just so it's totally no cookies, nothing. And this should work.
Yeah.
Famous last words. There it is. There's my app, and that's because Edge and Chrome. Now let's go try it in Chrome. So there's no cookies, there's no surprises because I'm using an incognito window. Works. So that's something I learned a long time ago. Chrome, Edge, IE, they use Windows Certificate Store, and a lot of people don't know that Firefox maintains its own. So, well, what a drag, right? I clicked play or debug, and it brought up my default browser. What do? Well, this little down arrow here in IIS Express, if I click that, I can switch the web browser. So I'm going to switch it over to Chrome, so that way I don't have to deal with that anymore, and everything just comes up. So little tip for folks, 2 tips there. Please leave HTTPS on, accept that self-signed certificate, and then go do your debugging in either Chrome or Edge, or maybe another browser, I'm not sure. But and I love Firefox. It's kind of my home browser, but you know, for a good work experience, I'll do that. So we've got an app. It's working. A Razor Pages app that's up and running. So well, now what would we do? We're going to want to get that back into our GitHub repository, right?
Right. So it's out there for public, and other people can, get their copy of it or make pull requests against it, right?
Yeah. So let's take a tour here of what we've done. If I go to the Team Explorer tab here in Visual Studio recognizes that I'm in a Git repository. In fact, it already, if you go down to the very bottom here, where I've taken my mouse to the lower right-hand corner, I'm highlighting, it knows that it's a Git repository, PDN scheduler, it knows that. It knows I'm on the master branch. That's cool. If I click here, I can do some very light Git management here. If I click on branches and right-click on master, I can view the history from right here within Visual Studio. There's that initial commit.
Yeah.
I'm going to close that and go back over to Team Explorer. And the other thing, if I go to changes, here is here's a tour of everything that's changed. Well, this seems like a lot. It's because we're adding all these new files.
Yep.
Whatever it is that makes this website go, it's all got to get added. Now, what's not getting added is everything in the git ignore that we're saying don't put that stuff in there. For example, as I'm looking through here, and then let's go to the actual file in File Explorer, the actual folder. If I go, here's a .vs folder. Well, let's come over here. There's no .vs folder to be found. That's not going to get committed because those are special files for Visual Studio. If I dive in a little bit more, we built our app and we created some object artifacts, and here's our actual, this is our actual app that we could go put on a web server.
Right.
But that bin folder, we don't want to check that in. It's not in this list. Thank you to the git ignore. Okay, so that's one way to look at our changes. Another one is
Hey, Chris, is it possible to see where that is in the git ignore? Just so if people are thinking, well, I might need to have my own file extension that I want to put in there, right?
Yeah, how do I know?
Right.
So let's go. You're not going to find that in the Visual Studio solution because it's not part of the solution.
Right.
So now, what else can you do? Well, let's go back out to the very root. Here's the git ignore file. I could just open it here. Or what I could do is say, let's open it with Visual Studio Code. I like editing git ignore files in folders in Visual Studio Code. Let's zoom out a little bit. So the nice thing about it is Visual Studio Code knows how to look at these, and it's already telling me, well, these are comments. Everything with a pound sign is a comment. That's not actual work, actual things to ignore. But it's saying, like, yeah, if you see a file with a .suo extension, ignore it. If you see a folder that is the word bin, either with a capital B or a lowercase b, ignore it.
Yep.
And so there's how that bin folder is getting ignored.
Cool.
And I was talking about the VS folder. So the whole git ignore experience, there is some help online for how to use a git ignore. I suppose we could probably Google and find it.
Right.
But it's kind of a little language of its own in a way.
A little bit.
It's not that difficult though. Even just by looking at it, you might be able to pick up some of the things that we're doing here.
Yeah, and that's why that would be pretty cool to
yeah,
show that.
Yeah, and we were able to find quickly 2 folders that are being ignored.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to end up in source control. So, you know, I'm back at the command line now, and if I say git status, well, it says, yeah, you're not tracking any files in that source folder. So if you're a command line jockey, you could, from right here, you could add those to be committed. Or we'll take a look at one of my favorite tools, Git Kraken, and it says, hey, you got 53 changes, and it's the same set of files, and it's going, hey, do you want to stage these for commit? So what should we use? I don't care which one. We can use Visual Studio maybe. Let's do this in Visual Studio.
Yeah.
So there's a plus sign. First of all, Team Explorer is your place to manage your Git repository. And if you click the home button, you get all these different buttons for things to do about your project. Once you've dove into one of these, this can be a little tricky UI for folks. Remember, I was in branches, and you say, oh my gosh, what do? I don't know what to do. Well, it turns out this up here, this is a button. Branches is a button. I'm in the branches section. If I click on that button, I can now pick something else. Let's pick changes. Changes is where you can stage and commit things. So I can pick one by one and say, yeah, I want this folder. Let's stage that. You have to stage files in order to commit them in Git. Or I can click this plus and say, why don't you take those 53 changes that we've identified and just stage them all. So now they're all staged. Now I can put in a commit message. In fact, interesting thing, if I go over to Git Kraken, they're staged. These tools play nicely together.
Yeah.
If I go over to the command line and say git status, all those files are now staged, changes to be committed. We could count these. We're going to get to 53. So what's next? We need a commit message. So we'll say created new Razor Pages project. I don't know that we've done anything more.
That's pretty good.
So we'll commit those staged files, and a new commit's been created. On my machine, my local Git repository, there's still not in GitHub. In fact, if I head over to GitHub and I refresh, we're still on initial commit. But if I take a look in this other Git tool, Git Kraken, there it is, created new Razor Pages project. That commit is here, and we can see all those files, they've been added to the project. What did this commit do? It added 53 files, the initial creation of the project, to my Git repository on my local machine. That's why it says local here. But over in GitHub, origin, not updated yet. We have to push that commit out. We have to push it out to GitHub, to origin in this case. That's the Git term for origin. Well, what does that mean? If I say git remote/v, I can see that origin is pointing at github.com, and there it is. There's my repository under my username, PDN scheduler. I'm going to fetch and push from there.
Yep.
So I could push from here. I could say git push. Origin is assumed, and master branch is assumed because it's the branch I'm in. Mm-hmm. So let's take those out and push. And what I've done is that commit is now being sent to GitHub. And what we're saying there is, okay, I've got a commit for you that goes on top of one you already know about, so just put it right on top.
Yep.
Well, let's go head over to GitHub, and when I click refresh here, this is going to go to 2 commits. There it is, created new Razor Pages product. And now any of you out there could clone this repo, open Visual Studio. You should be able, you got to have Visual Studio 2019 and the .NET Core 2.2 tools installed. You should be able to just hit F5. You might have to get past that certificate issue.
Yeah.
And you're going.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to try right now?
Say,
awesome. So let's go over to Rich's machine.
So on my machine, so all I've done at this point is if I come up to 8, which is me, switch over. Come on. There we go.
Oh, look at this. This is Visual Studio Code.
So it's looking at Visual Studio Code, and I have a folder here for our dev.net projects. I've got scheduler, which is what I call the folder where I've done. You can see basically I've done just basically zoom in on this. That works a little too much. All I did was I ran a git clone command, pointing to the same repo that Chris pointed to earlier, and I did clone that in. And I also have this little add-in here, which is PoshGit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
essentially, it is telling me the status of the repository.
Yeah, and so PoshGit is a PowerShell. I don't know if extension is the right word, but it improves Git, the shell experience in PowerShell.
Yes.
And your terminal in Visual Studio Code is set to PowerShell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I have up here.
No, I like PoshGit. I often show PoshGit as well.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's not as cool as Gitkraken. Don't get me wrong, but
But I like
that
it.
real quick visual, right? So here I'm just going to do something very simple, like do a git fetch, right? Because I'm going to see, well, what's the
what commits are up on origin that I don't have here yet.
And I see all of that information that came back, all the check-ins that Chris had done, all of the objects that are up there, and you can see that my PoshGit has gone from being equal with the blue symbols here and the the 3 dashed equal, but to 1 behind.
Yeah, you're 1 down. Yeah, you're 1 behind.
1 behind.
Yep.
So I'm down by 1. So it's what I can do then is just now finish that out and do a git pull, and now I'm going to pull that into my local repository and get me back to even, essentially, with what Chris has out there.
Yeah.
And then I think if I do I don't think your solution file's in a couple of layers, right? Because you've got the source.
It was in source, right? So it's.
I think what you call it your project.
PDN scheduler. So you probably need to go into PDN scheduler. Yep.
Oh, CD scheduler. Dot solution, right? So I can just launch that from here, and it'll ask me what version of Visual Studio I want to open with. Since on this machine I have a couple different ones running. Looking at my shoulder to see where this is where this is loading.
Okay, so now it's opening in Visual Studio.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I just basically
Yeah, you're using code to get PowerShell, some nice PowerShell experience there. And if it might be interesting in another time to maybe hey, this person's in code, this person's in Visual Studio, but we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then here's your project that you had up and running, right?
Yep.
Now I might be since a little bit since I ran this particular version of code, but we can try and build it and see what.
Yeah.
Because if you think about what we didn't do, we didn't check in all of the NuGet packages, all of the things that were in the build, in the bin, and those kind of things. So what it's doing is it's doing a restore, and it's rebuilding the project for me here on my machine.
It's restoring project dependencies from NuGet, building it, should run pretty soon. Might ask you about that certificate.
Yep.
And then, as long as and I'm the weird one whose default browser is Firefox, so for you, you'll go, oh, no problem, opens up in either Chrome or Edge, whatever you have on your machine.
I believe Chrome is what this one's default.
I even went ahead. I went back to command line while we were sitting here, and I just said, "Hey, what if I ran this project from command line .NET Run?" And it worked. I'm not sure I'm happy with the pathing that I've created because it's PDN scheduler, source, PDN scheduler, PDN scheduler. The nice thing about it is we can work on that.
Right.
We could adjust. This early stage of the project is the time to get that experience right. We haven't really done anything yet that would make it hard. Like now's the time. Like, are we happy with the folder structure and the layout? And then and are we happy with that F5 experience or that just .NET Run experience for collaborators who we might want to jump in? It's doing it. It'll get there. This is a brand new laptop over here.
Yours is.
Yeah.
Mine's a little older.
Right. So
there we go. Now we're up in.
There it is. Awesome. So this is already proof that the collaboration is set up and running. And that's the great thing about getting into GitHub or any source control system right away. Even if it's just like at work, your own personal, it doesn't necessarily have to be public cloud, but you can immediately start bringing in teammates and colleagues in the outside world to help. Whereas if you wait a little bit, sometimes getting your project up there is kind of hard later. You've already started to grow roots on your local machine.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've done hackathons with developers. That's part of what I do with my day job. And part of those conversations, you hear people who don't go off and start in this way. So I go, zip that file package up and send it, or
Yes,
give me here's a thumb drive, give it to me, or put it on the share so I can access it. And you see how much easier it is if you just start with your, with some kind of a repository and put it in place there.
Yeah, the old like, well, I don't know what to do, so here's a zip. I'll email you something, and that's hard. That's a hard way to live. So,
Yep.
Okay, do we have time to get this building? You think? I don't know that we would get it deployed. Or do we want to leave that?
We're 45 in. We got to do some event stuff. But so, what do you think? A couple minutes for that?
Depends on how long we think it would take. So I do have Azure DevOps, and the reason why we're going to use Azure DevOps is because it has Azure pipelines. Azure DevOps, I like to say, is made up of several, and this is my term, like several pillars, right? Like Azure boards for your sprint tracking, or just doesn't have to be sprints, just your item tracking, work items, tasks, bugs, and then you've got Azure repos for it's your source control,
right?
But we're not going to use that right now.
No,
we could demo it another time. And then you've got Azure pipelines, and part of Azure pipelines, there's a few more than one feature in there. There's builds, which just says, okay, given some source control, I will build the output. I'll build the files that would go on a web server.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it after that, but at least I built them. I built the artifacts. I like to use that term.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Azure artifacts means something, so I got to be careful.
You got to be careful of the wording.
Yeah.
And in addition to just building, it can also do, if you have test projects as part of your solution,
right,
it can run through those tests and make sure those pass, or if not, send you information and warnings about those.
And you can set that up as part of Azure builds.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be something to look at another time. We're not going to get to the releases part. Nope. The releases part of Azure pipelines is saying like, okay, you've built something. I know how to copy it somewhere, push it somewhere, deploy it somewhere. And the nice thing about it is we'll probably be able to demonstrate a lot of different things.
Yeah, so think of the first part of the continuous integration part is kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Let's.
I'm gonna bring you back up. Hang on.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kind of close out here so that I can show the start of this. At least I hope that's what happens.
Okay.
If I go to dev.azure.com.
Bring you back.
Yeah, so I closed my Azure DevOps browser window. I did that on purpose because I want to see if I just go to dev.azure.com. So I'm already signed up. To sign up for Azure DevOps, like what if I create a new private window? What does that look like?
Yep.
I just to see. Saying you can start for free. Now, when you click that button, it's basically going to want you to sign in with a Microsoft account.
Yes.
That's all you need to start with Azure DevOps, a Microsoft account. And a Microsoft account, a lot of people watching this, you might already have one.
Yep.
But let's say you don't.
Xbox gamer, right?
Yeah, if you're an Xbox gamer,
you have
got
a Hotmail or Outlook or Live is which mine was.
All kinds of ones.
Yeah.
But let's say you don't.
Yep.
It's a piece of cake to create a live account, and furthermore, you don't have to say, okay, now that I've got a live account, listen to me, how old am I? Now that I'm going to create a Microsoft account, it doesn't have to be an Outlook.com account or Hotmail, because you can choose those domains if you'd like.
Absolutely.
But you can bring your own email address to the account that you want your email at. I don't know where it is. It's up to you. Whatever service you like. That can be your Microsoft account as well. It doesn't have to be some brand new, oh great, now I got another place to check email. You can avoid that.
Yeah.
But once you've got it, so here I am in an incognito window. I'm going to do that kind of on purpose here. So I'll say start free. And what's really going to happen is it's going to say sign in. So over on my machine here, it's showing me the Microsoft sign in, and I would just go through the motions of doing that.
Yep. Oh,
yep.
Sorry, bring you over.
No, it's fine. So, I just go through the motion of I'd put in my password and everything. So instead, I'm signed in. Here's Azure DevOps. Here's what it looks like when you sign in. I've been playing around in Azure DevOps a lot, so I've got these projects that are already here. They're not anything to write home about. They're not exciting. They're private, right? So I could collaborate with you just by simply inviting you to a project.
Right.
And I've been invited to some other organizations, like your organization, right? And so on. So I clicked back quickly because I just wanted to get back. Oh well, now I'm in your in your org. So that's cool. we need a new project.
Over here we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything we've done so far was done over in GitHub.
Yeah.
And not in Azure DevOps. So yeah.
So I need an Azure DevOps project. So what I'm going to do is from this basic home screen, and I get to pick what I want to be pinned here. We can work on that another time. So I'm going to say create project, and we'll call the project PDN scheduler, and we'll say an application to help with scheduling Philly.net streams. And what are some of the ideas that we've had here is, if you've been watching our streams, in order to get all the information onto YouTube, onto Mixer, onto Twitch, we create these events, we schedule the next streams, we create the title card that shows the caption and when is the event. We said, man, if only we knew some programmers who could automate the creation of those things for us. So maybe that's the Apple build. But tonight, what's more important is getting this started. So back on my screen here, I'm creating a new project, and by default it says private, so I'm just going to leave it there. Let me go to advanced. Version control is Git. I don't have to use it, but right. I can pick either Git or Team Foundation version control. Used to be known as TFS. I can also say, well, what's my work item process? Am I an Agile shop, a Scrum shop, or these other processes? Don't have to use it. And tonight they don't matter so much. So I'm going to click. Could I change them later? Could I add another? Let's say I picked Rich Team Foundation version control tonight, and then we as a team said, no, we need a Git repo.
Yeah.
Could I add a second Git repo to Azure repos? And if we have to look up that answer,
I will try that in the background. I don't think you can change the version control type.
Okay.
You can add additional. So if we were to go with Git, you could have additional repos inside of that project.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't believe you can change the version control once you make the commit.
Okay. Well, the only reason why I brought it up is just so that people don't feel so locked in. Like, I have to know all these answers now.
Right.
And I don't know for sure. Right now, I just want to build something. I don't know for sure if I want a certain work item process or whatever. But let's just create it. Create that new project. Hopefully it doesn't take too long.
No, that's pretty quick.
Good. That was quick. And I get, since the project's brand new, it says, well, what do you want to start with? Boards, repos, pipelines. And we want to start with pipelines, right? We want Azure pipelines because that's what we're going to build from.
Right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that answer right here. I don't have to. I could come over to pipelines. You see me moving my mouse to the left. I can highlight pipelines, and I have all the different options here. But let's try clicking that. It says no build pipelines were found. So it's okay for me to say new pipeline here?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say new pipeline. Where is your code? And this is why we put the code in GitHub, because I don't want you to feel locked in to any particular solution. That's the beauty of Azure DevOps.
And what's important to note here for some of you who may have not done a new project recently, we've started to move over towards defining your build pipelines via YAML files.
Okay.
So that instruction-based way of doing things, as opposed to some of the previous ways, which was a lot of, not a lot, but there was a good bit of drag and drop. And you
it's like a designer kind of experience.
You could basically drag in the steps you want and configure those steps. They're doing it now with YAML instead, because a lot of people are interested in doing it that way, basically.
Okay, great.
And
Awesome.
if you want to switch back, down at the bottom there, it still says use the classic editor to create a pipeline without YAML.
All right, that's down here at the bottom. Got it. Yep. Okay. Well, we know our code's on GitHub.
Yes.
If you were at your employer and they use GitHub Enterprise, you can connect up. You could use any Git repository as long as Azure repos, Azure DevOps can get to it. So there might be a little bit of access, opening up some access there. But let's, this is simple. We're in GitHub.
Yep.
I'm going to click
GitHub.
The cloud. And the first thing that happens is Azure DevOps goes over to GitHub and says, I want to take a look at Chris's repos. And GitHub does the right thing and says, hold on a second. Let me make sure that's cool with him. So I'm actually have been sent over to the GitHub site. This was all done. I didn't do anything. I clicked on GitHub and I got sent over to the GitHub site. And GitHub is telling me, are you okay with letting Azure pipelines access your account?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if I can change some of these. Oh, it's just telling me. It's telling me what it's going to be able to do. And basically, it needs to be able to access my repositories, and it needs to be able to set up webhooks. So that way GitHub tells it when things happen. I'm going to come down here and click. See, granted for this is fine. And you can see I've got a billion organizations that I'm a part of here. So I'm going to say authorize Azure pipelines. I have to put in my password. So Rich is going to switch away while I work on that real quick there. I may even have to two-factor this.
You have that set up, yeah.
I do. So let's see. Live broadcast, right?
Well, that's it's part of the things that you.
So I didn't have to that time. I put in my password. Every so often, GitHub will say, "Get your authenticator out," and I use an authenticator app.
Yes.
So
you get the code and you just type in the 6-digit code and you're done.
So
are you back?
Yep. All it did was take me back to Azure DevOps, and Azure DevOps says, "Well, pick a repository." Well, this is the one, PDN scheduler, and it said now, back to GitHub to approve this, I suppose. Approve and install on your personal account. I could say, that's kind of nice. GitHub's recommending. Well, you could come back later for other repos.
Yeah.
But it's saying you're going to need access to PDN scheduler, and so I'm going to approve it and let that happen. Oh boy, more stuff. I don't know if I'm going to get a password up here. Nope. Just said it's just making sure that it's that Microsoft account. Woo! Look at this. A lot of approvals. I'm verifying the GitHub account, determining pipeline, authorize Azure pipelines by Microsoft. Okay.
Here we go.
Got through 3 sets of approvals there. Now, next question it's asking me. I guess this is essentially asking me what I'm building.
The type of pipeline, yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay, so like I could do Xamarin.
Yeah.
I could do a .NET desktop app. I like say WinForms WPF, right?
Sure.
I could use an existing file. That's what it's showing here. Xamarin, UWP. Yeah. We know that we want ASP.NET Core.
That was the project type we picked. Yeah.
Top of the list. I'll click that. Okay, so it made a YAML file. Now this is where I go. Okay, what is this? What's happening here? How does somebody learn more about these YAML files? Is this the trick here? Where they're saying, hey, go to the docs. So we probably won't review it too much tonight.
No.
But
there you go.
It looks like you can learn a lot about the YAML files here. So a YAML file is often used in different CI/CD platforms, not peculiar to Azure DevOps, to be kind of like a configuration and settings.
Yeah, and if you think about the Kubernetes container space, they use a lot of those files to define what it is that they're deploying or building or putting together, basically. Right? Okay. So I think that's one of the things. So I'll be honest, this is an area I'm still trying to get the speed in.
Well,
but
we're going to learn
something for next time to make sure we can kind of walk through one of those basically, because it would be good to understand how to build one. Because what often happens is they'll start you out with one, but you need to tweak it for one reason or another.
Well, we're learning along with you folks, right? Yep. We're starting with the stuff that we knew we could knock out. And then we're going to take input from folks. I mean, if people, join the chat and say, here's a great way to do things, we're going to try those things out right in front of you. So in any case, this one looks pretty simple. Mm-hmm. I can even kind of decipher it, and I'm new to this. This is the first time I've seen this. That's on purpose. I want to think, just like you watching us right now, I said, I want to be green. The trigger's the master branch is what I'm guessing here. Mm-hmm. Make a commit on master, we're going to build.
Yep.
We're going to build an Ubuntu targeted version of our app, which is cool because we were targeting Windows in Visual Studio.
Right.
So then what build configuration? Release makes sense. So I suppose theoretically, if we were really taking advantage of build configurations, we could change that. And it's saying, how do you do it? Well, you run .NET build with the specified configuration. And display name, does that just mean what the step's going to be called? That's what the step's going to be called, is .NET build release.
Yeah. So what'll happen is as you run through that step, you'll basically see a window with the actual output coming from it, and that window will be named.
Right. So technically, it's running .NET build configuration release on the command line, so to speak.
Yep.
And then it's just going to tell us, that's just we could call that Joe or whatever we wanted for display name.
Yep.
All right, save and run. So it'll build it right now?
Yes.
Great. Well, let's do save
Well,
and
it will
run.
kick off the build. Let's put it that way.
Oh, it'll kick off a build. Okay. So what is it doing now? It wants to commit this YAML. Where's it committing it?
Directly to the master branch.
To the master branch of my GitHub over in GitHub then. So I'm going to put an Azure Pipelines YAML file into my project.
Yeah.
Get it. It's going to go straight out to GitHub, so it won't be on my or your machine. We'll take a look at that in a little bit.
Yep.
And what it's telling me here is, what do you want to say for the commit message for that? That's necessary because from now on, Azure Pipelines, when it gets that signal from GitHub that something's changed, it's going to review the YAML file and say, now I know what to do.
Yes.
That's cool. It keeps this configuration as code. It's not locked away in Azure DevOps. Very
Right.
portable.
And given, you know, the where your code is residing, it makes sense to, that it's letting you keep it out in that same space.
That's really good. I like that. Okay. So because the project's brand new, let's go ahead and commit directly to the branch. I'm going to leave it setting up CI with Azure Pipelines. I'm just for the heck of it, I'm going to add to this extended description just so we can see what an extended description looks like in a Git repo. Created Azure DevOps created the YAML file. I just want something there.
Yeah.
Save and run. So that is committing out to GitHub. Let me go rush over to GitHub. I don't want to miss anything here. Okay, let's just rush real quick out to GitHub so we can see that I've got 3 commits now in my GitHub repo. There's a new commit there, and there it is, set up CI with Azure Pipelines. Yeah. Just so awesome. Azure DevOps did that for me. Now, let me rush back to Azure DevOps.
That was all of those authorizations you approved as you were going through the...
So that it could do that, right? Yes. So now I rush back to Azure DevOps, and this is happening. This is going right now. This was triggered because of this commit.
Yep.
And our job's named job. I guess we can fix that later. It needed an Ubuntu agent, and it prepared the job. It initialized the job. It checked out the code, and then something happened. We don't know.
Not a problem.
Let's click on it. What's it? Oh boy, you can't even read it. Can I scroll? Oh, but I can scroll in. Good. Okay. All right. Probably has to do with the way that I set up the project.
Yeah.
It says, where's your project file?
It's not, because we have that source folder.
It's in that source folder, right? So that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So what I want to do then,
we got to go back and edit the YAML file.
The YAML file, right? Okay. So an easy way to do that would be, can I do it from builds?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So your build definition, which is what this is, that YAML file is going to be here for you to go up top and do the edit again.
So I clicked on builds to come back here. Here's my build.
Yeah.
I could say edit.
Yes.
And I get, I'm getting the YAML editor. Okay. And what we need is do we know what folder we're in here? We're in the root. Is that presumed to be the root? So what I would need is a .NET build source PDN scheduler, maybe? Does that work? That seems to work from my command line.
Right.
We're trying to figure out what we've got to put in the YAML file. What if I take a folder away? Let's see, that still worked.
So but what if you just do .NET build, right? Because that's kind of what we're doing in the YAML.
It blows up.
Right, which is what, so
and if I say .NET build source, that doesn't work.
So we need the PDN
and so just to see why, let's dir into source PDN. It's pulling. My guess is if you just do one layer deep, it says there's a solution file. I see a web app in there. I can build that.
Yep. And then if you went too deep, which is what you did on the first one, right?
Right.
Well, I got to see his proj here. Okay, I'm cool with this.
So what I should be able to do is I should be able to head back to Azure DevOps. We're going to edit that YAML file, and we're going to get a .NET build that will actually work instead of just plain old .NET build from the root, which didn't work.
Right.
So we need the script to be .NET build, and here I am back in the Azure DevOps YAML editor. I don't have to edit this YAML here though, right? I could do that.
So yeah, so you could do that.
I could go to GitHub.
If you do it, so here's the thing: if you do it in GitHub, you're going to check that file back in the master.
Okay.
And that's going to kick off a build.
Okay.
Which is then going to look at the YAML file that's part of the source code, right?
Or I could on my machine bring down that commit from the cloud, edit it right here on this machine, push it back up to GitHub, and Azure DevOps would pick it up again.
Either way, it's that master commit is going to kick off that build process.
So you're not locked into using this editor, but it's here.
Yeah.
So let's do it, especially because we've been at it a little while. So we know we needed it to be source and at least one deep into PDN scheduler.
Yeah.
So this is really screaming out to think about this folder structure a little bit later. But .NET build, go a folder or two in. We still want the release configuration. Let's save this. We'll cross our fingers. And we updated the commit message is to update the Azure Pipelines YAML. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to make that the description. And I'm going to say, I want the commit message to be a little clearer. I want to say .NET build into subfolders. So it's a little bit clearer what we had to do here. I'm going to click save. That's automatically, that's going out. I'm going to rush over to GitHub and watch that fourth commit drop into place. There it is. .NET build into the subfolders. I can even click on the YAML file and we can see it's already up here in GitHub. That's awesome. Rush back over to Azure DevOps.
If you go to your builds now,
I got to run to builds and it's on its way. Oh, there it is.
There's your new build.
And the little washing machine symbol, it's washing my code. Is that what that is? No?
Or, tumbling it all together.
The code's being built. That's so the X was that's family survey says right.
Family Feud. There you go.
And then this next one, .NET build into subfolders. It's now. I love that symbol. I call it the washing machine. So
that is because it does move.
Oh no! Look what happened.
This one.
We may on the next episode we will actually get this thing built. So what's the error now? Is it still complaining project file does not exist? Oh, do we really need to jump into the project file? Maybe it's not enough to go to the SLN here in Azure DevOps.
Want me to find out? Yeah.
Yeah, the project file does not exist. So we'll do this a lot quicker since we know what we're doing. I say we know what we're doing. All right, we'll edit the YAML. We'll go one subfolder further so that it finds the CS proj. Okay, save. And I don't think I have to run it, right?
Because the commit will take care of it.
And it's thinking. That's what that means. The clock.
Yeah.
I don't know why clock means thinking.
So hit the little hyperlink for the project for the build, right?
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And that'll show you where it is. It was probably waiting for a machine to become available.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's the Jeopardy.
You were queued.
That's the Jeopardy theme symbol. Do do do. Richard loves this. I'm not making fun of Azure DevOps. I just like having fun here. So now we're washing .NET build.
Yep.
And this time I think we're wait, no. Oh no. Do I have to actually put the project file?
It's interesting you didn't have to. Well, granted, you're running it in Windows, not Bash.
True.
But it shouldn't make a difference.
Do I have to put the project file? Is that a thing? Hold on. Let's see.
Can you do start.proj?
Okay, I hear you. You mean
and then one more layer, and then star.csproj.
No, that didn't like that. We knew that this worked, but hold on. But does it work like this? Because isn't this what we're actually doing?
Oh, true.
Yeah, still
Seems
didn't
okay
complain.
With it.
Okay. And then we know we can do this. Is that going to be it? Is that going to be it?
Interesting.
We're not. See, we're learning here. This is good. That's what this is about.
So I could see why, right? If you think about we've got a solution with one project file in it. If we had something with multiple, which one do we want to build?
Yeah.
And that gives us the ability to have multiple steps inside of here to build out multiple projects.
I'll admit that what I'm curious about now is what is it about the way it's being built here on this build server, and I just don't know the answer, that that looks like it's making us want to go all the way to find the CS project file. Whereas if we left it in root, would we have had to have done all this? I don't know. We're gonna find out. This might be the last attempt of the night, but we're gonna go for it. .NET build specifying the CS proj file complete path. We'll give this one more try, and if not, then we will have something to do next time, won't we?
Yep.
We're gonna build. We're getting a build agent. Do 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 do. Oh, it's ready. So that now we're washing. Check out the code. That seems to work every time. Okay. Got the code. Now we're building. We're building a release build. Interesting. Oh yeah, that's right. That's the name of it. .NET build release. And generating the script. Script content say to do this thing. Working on it. Thinking about it. I think that blew up again.
Yeah.
Okay. What's this stuff? Is it the // stuff?
Wait a minute. We have NuGet packages, don't we? Did we do a restore?
Oh, and you think that? Well, here's another thing that's wrong here. What about my silly backslashes? Because I'm from Windows. Because I was a Windows guy.
Hang on. Go back there for a second.
Yep. See what I did? See, I did backslashes, and then look at this. It's like what? What are you doing here?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So, lesson learned. Maybe. Don't be a Windows guy. Someone's either going to say this is the greatest example of everything that can go wrong, or wow, you really don't know what's going on here. Reversed slashes for bash.
Oh, see, we're not watching the chat. We're watching our,
No, I know. I don't have the chat up on this screen. Has somebody already told us that that's it?
So it looks like Skull Crusher and Unicus have been, since it's Linux, shouldn't it be / instead of the backslash?
Yeah, awesome. So, I don't have it on this machine right now, so it's already should be running. Reverse the slashes for bash.
Hey, that's true. He's commenting that we did say we were learning. So
yeah. And what we might find, we could even tinker with a little bit more and find out if we can start pulling back. Doesn't have to be the CS proj. Doesn't have to be, maybe it doesn't have to be the full path like it was on Windows. Now, I'm not going to say anything, in fact.
Nope,
I'm going to say, boy, it seems to be taking longer.
Restoring packages.
But it is actually restoring packages.
Nice
so
work,
thank you guys in chat. Yep. Sorry that I wish I would have seen it and just did what they said, because I love, what I really want is that feedback loop. And we've talked about how we might get chat, on a screen in here. So we'll get there. But look at that, restoring the packages. That takes a little while. So one thing that I'd like to check out someday is I'm not sure who it is, because this step takes a while, the package restore, and it's happening again and again. I saw somebody, and I don't know, I haven't closed the loop in my brain on this, is they used Azure DevOps artifacts to basically do a .NET restore for all of the standard ASP.NET Core stuff.
Yeah.
Get it in there. And then instead of it pulling from NuGet, it's like, I guess it's a quicker trip. I don't know.
Like a local version of a NuGet.
Right. And then it just said, just sucks it in, and apparently that speeds this up. I'll have to find the blog post. We'll have to see if it actually helps.
Yeah.
That could be a fun future thing to do. Because it took, looking at it now, it took a minute. It took a minute to do the restore while we were sitting here.
Right. And if you're doing that every time you check in code, and
little friction.
Yeah.
And it's nice to check in and then run to the website.
Right.
Right.
Or at least to run there as quick as you can.
Right. Right. So no, I think it's great. Thank you very much, Junicus and Skull Crusher. We're all learning. I love it. Definitely trying you know what? Absolutely The bash stuff there was killing me.
Yeah.
And I know better, right? I know better. But what? Anyways,
you get
so
that habit, right? Because you're doing a command line on your machine.
I even cut and paste it.
I know, right?
Because Windows 10 lets me highlight it, Control C, Control, which is I love.
Yeah.
I love that here finally in command line I can do that, and it killed me.
Yeah.
So, looking back at the build, all green, everything's checked.
No, sorry. We'll go back to the build.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's here. It is reverse slashes for bash, .NET build release. It's all good. What do we do on post job checkout? I guess it just I don't know what it does there. Cleans cached credential from repository. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then finalize job. Awesome. Where is it? That's my next question. Where did it go? I don't know.
Come back next week and find
All
out.
right, we'll come back and we'll see where did my code go. But hey, if you followed us from beginning to end, we created a new project. First we agreed that we're gonna create the place to put the project first. So we went to GitHub, talked a little bit about creating a new project on GitHub. We created that project in Visual Studio, pushed it up to GitHub, said, okay, awesome. Rich pulled it down so that we knew we had what I like to call F5 ability.
Yeah.
You ran it, it worked, and then we said, let's go over to Azure DevOps, create the build, which it walked us through. Walked us through it. It left the YAML. And without knowing anything about YAML, we were able to kind of suss out, we got to change that.
Yeah.
We got to change that script. That's what's wrong.
Yeah.
Yep. And that all comes from me trying to be cute and saying, let's put the code in source, which I see a lot of projects do. So I think I'm going to review some of those projects.
Yep.
We'll think about a folder path. We might switch it for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But there we go. That I know we did not tonight purposely call this segment 15 minutes of code because I had a feeling it was going to take a while. But wanted to create a project, get it in source control, and have it building. And now we've got it, and we've got it captured on video forever.
Yep.
So hopefully that helps people whether you're watching tonight or in the future. Awesome. That was great.
Sorry,
it only took us an hour.
Yeah. I wasn't, well, yeah, thereabouts.
It's the news at 9:30 p.m. Do you know where your code is? That's awesome. Yeah, caching the restore, adding a local agent. So what I love about this is that both Junicus and Skullcrusher in the chat their brains are already turning about the next step.
Yep.
That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So I'm so glad that you joined us tonight to talk about this stuff with us. And again, if you watch us on Twitch, we're using the events feature right now to post up the future streams. And so if you head over to our events right now, you'll see the next one we've got posted is the hands-on lab on May 1st. We'll do an after show after that. That is next Wednesday.
Yep.
And at the after show, we might continue on this. Depends on if we have a guest or a different topic, but there will definitely be a code segment. It just depends on if it's going to be short or if we'll do an odyssey like this. The last thing to be done here is as I take a look at Get Kraken on my machine, there's one more thing I need to do.
Okay.
And it's that, and this is why I like Get Kraken, by the way. Without doing anything, it's already fetched and said, look at GitHub's ahead. GitHub's 5 commits ahead. And you locally are 5 commits behind. So I get that visual feedback instantly that says, I should bring my local repository up to date. And I can do that several ways. I could go out to command line and say git pull, but why don't I use just use Git Kraken and say Git Kraken's telling me I'm 5 behind. If you can read that 5 down arrow, I'm going to say pull, fast forward if possible. It's the same thing as if I said git pull from the command line. Same exact thing. And in fact, if I head out now to my source folder, there it is, Azure Pipelines.yaml.
Yeah.
That's what we've been working on all night. And here it is, and here's our disastrous .build source PDN command line. So that's it. That closes the loop.
So is that Git Kraken consistently going out and polling and doing and just running that git fetch command?
That's a great question. So I have Git Kraken up. I'm going to go to File Preferences, and you can see that the first one in general is the auto fetch interval.
Oh wow.
And basically it will automatically fetch all visible remotes every so often. If you set it to 0, it doesn't do it anymore. I will say that in earlier versions of Git Kraken, this was much more aggressive and there was no setting. It was very aggressive. And I think what happened is there are people out there in this world who don't like that. They would much rather actually pick the fetch. They'd rather do it themselves.
Yeah.
I've come to the point where I like it. I like it because what I get out of it is when I go back to, when I come and sit and get cracking, if you've done some work and you've committed it to the remote's master, I get that visual immediately.
Yeah.
And to me, the fetch is kind of non-destructive. I haven't pulled your code.
No.
I've just said, oh, well, some stuff has happened. Maybe I should pull up to latest. Or if I've been doing some work on the side, maybe I should, what I like to do, this sounds like another show, is rebase my code up on top of yours so it looks like I haven't even started yet. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
That's what I like. If I turned that tool off, I would have had to have git fetched. Absolutely.
And apparently we can do the same thing in VS Code because it has that Git integration off on the left there.
Okay, I believe it. I believe that so to be fair, there's a lot of Git tools out there. I try to keep up with them because I do. If some of you have watched the show before, I've probably mentioned that I do like to teach and help people with Git, but I haven't kept up with VS Code auto fetching. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, something to play with.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So we did it. We did it. We got new project, file new project. That's what you should do first. Get your continuous integration code. We haven't written any code yet. We haven't even
other than
decided 100% for sure what we're going to do.
Yeah. Some might say the YAML file's code, but that's, you know.
Yeah, and we'll leave that for another time. So to wrap up, what do we have to wrap up?
So just to keep in mind of some things that are happening in the near term. Let me bring over this. What's my other web page? This and that there. So one of the things to take a look at is we are on the same, or for us at least, around the same week that Build is happening.
Okay.
The week of May 6th. We are here in the Philadelphia MTC are going to be participating in Philly Tech Week. So we are very happy to get a slot here. And what we're doing is we are doing essentially a day of technology here. So there are 3 different hackathon tracks where we are doing hackathons, whether you're an Azure DevOps developer. So we've got one focused on that. We've got another one focused on modern workplace stuff, so doing things in Teams and Office 365. So, and then a third one around business applications and AI. So Power Apps and some of the machine learning, artificial intelligence components. So regardless of what kind of development activities you're interested in, we've got a full day of sessions here for you and 3 different tracks to take a look at and be able to get up to speed on any of those that you might be interested in. So that's happening here on May the 8th. That's Wednesday.
All right.
And if you go out to that lovely page that I just showed there, go to aka.ms/Philly Tech Week, and that will take you to that same spot that will tell you about our event, and then also take you out to the Eventbrite space where you can register for the event. So one of those things that's really popular here. We're hoping that everybody would be kind of interested and come out and check that out here in the suburbs, but for Philly Tech Week. So that's the one thing that we have going. And other thing coming up is we still have some room left in the Global Azure Bootcamp.
Okay.
And that is, if I bring this up here, GFX one. There we go, Global Azure Bootcamp. And again, if we go ahead and hit the short URL, because that's what we're good at making. So Global Azure Bootcamp, for those who don't know, is essentially a round-the-world day of training in every location around the world. More than 200 sites participating, tens of thousands of developers, all coming together and doing various learnings here. So we are going to live stream this as well as make it open for people to attend in person. And if you're interested in that, the aka.ms/GABPhilly will take you to this page where you can basically do the registration there. Keep an eye out, because we're also, if you're interested in looking at the live stream stuff, we do have a number of other Global Azure Bootcamp sites that are going to be live streaming at the same time. So we're going to try and do what we can to kind of cross promote and be able to show that, hey, if you don't like the session we have here, we've got sessions at other locations that you might be of interested here, and where you might be able to go ahead and take a look at those too. So that's 2 events. The third event that is coming up is this one, which is our Azure Data Fest. That's a few weeks out. That's not until May, but we are running out of availability on that one. So aka.ms/ what do we say, Philly.
Ooh, that's a long short link.
Well, Azure Data Fest is what it is, and then I wanted to make sure it was the Philly
right.
one.
You want it to be our location.
Yeah.
Sure.
So again,
location
using Eventbrite for this, but a way to get to register out for this event here. We will live stream this one as well, and that'll be on the Philly.net site. So both the bootcamp and the Data Fest are going to get live streamed. So a lot of things going on tech-wise here, a lot of events, and hopefully some of the similar kind of events with the things that we're doing here on this weekly stream. So.
Awesome, and we got a link wrap up here. So if everybody missed it, it'll also put it into the show notes.
Yeah.
So that way, for cut and pasters, it'll be in the show notes. But on my screen, just real quick, so everybody can get a screenshot.
Yep. Let me bring this over.
We've got
there you go.
All streams and replays, youtube.com/philly.net. You can join us on our new Discord. We're just getting started there. Discord.me/philly.net will give you the invite. And a Discord, if you don't know, is a community. It's to chat, to voice chat, text chat. There's channels. Feels a little bit like IRC and Slack and Skype all put together.
Yep. And there's a lot of streamers who are using this as a way to interact with the community. Definitely
a stream community hub. Philly Tech Week at Microsoft at that aka MS short link. Tonight's repository for the work we did is right there at it's currently in my organization. It's my account. That might move.
Okay.
So nothing tonight. This is what I'm going to put for now. And then Global Azure. So if you're watching in the far future, Global Azure Bootcamp, short link, and Azure Data Fest for these upcoming events here in April and May of 2019. So if you're joining us in the future, 2020, 2021, first of all, if you can send me a tip of who's going to win the 2020 Super Bowl, that'd be awesome so that I can go place that bet. And then we probably wouldn't have the show anymore because I'd win a lot of money.
Or we'd have better equipment.
Or we'd have a lot better equipment where we do the show full time, right? Because I would have that tip. So anyways, I think we're good for tonight. And I especially want to thank everybody who joined us, and thank you also very much for joining us in chat too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I always
thanks for copying in those links for us and being with us on our experiment here of having a Philly-based tech talk show where we learn about code and we have a lot of fun here. So I think we're good. We'll see you all May 1st, Wednesday, for the Philly.net meetup starting at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. That's awesome transition. That's almost like you planned it. That's great.
Almost.
No, I loved it. That's great. We should bring that up. So we generally start. Did I get the time right on there? Do I have the time right on that card?
8:15, which is about when we actually kicked it off. So.
Oh, for the tech show. Yeah. I gotcha. I'm sorry.
No, I don't have that one.
We don't have the title card up for the May 1st lab, Wednesday, May 1st. We usually get the stream going around 5:45 to 5:50. The meetup, the live meetup with all of our attendees starts at 6, goes until 8 o'clock. And then Rich and I and whatever guests that we might have rush down here, and we start an after show about 8:15. We'll keep working on that transition. So thanks for joining us tonight. Any last words?
No, just love to see you come out to one of these events that we have here. So and continue the collaboration in the chat.
Yeah, can't wait to keep working with you, and we'll see you next time.
Cool.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good time.
Yep.